Ethical sourcing is no longer optional for businesses operating in today's globalized economy. With consumers, stakeholders, and regulators demanding greater transparency, companies must ensure that their products are sourced responsibly, respecting human rights, environmental standards, and fair labor practices. However, implementing ethical sourcing practices presents significant challenges, such as supply chain complexity, cost considerations, and lack of visibility. This white paper explores the meaning of ethical sourcing, the challenges companies face, and the opportunities it presents for building sustainable, resilient supply chains and enhancing brand reputation. Introduction: global supply chains are highly interconnected, making it difficult to track sourcing practices at every level. Ethical sourcing ensures that the materials and goods a company procures meet established social, environmental, and legal standards. This involves accountability across several dimensions, including ensuring fair wages and safe working conditions, avoiding exploitative labor practices, such as child labor or forced labor, protecting environmental resources by reducing deforestation, pollution, and carbon footprints, complying with international laws and agreements like the United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, UNGPs. Ethical sourcing has evolved into a critical business strategy as consumers and stakeholders increasingly prioritize companies that demonstrate a commitment to sustainability and corporate social responsibility, CSR. Key principles of ethical sourcing: 1. Transparency, providing end-to-end visibility across the supply chain to identify the origin of materials and ensure compliance with ethical standards. 2. Human rights, upholding fundamental rights, such as safe working conditions, non-discrimination, and freedom of association. 3. Environmental sustainability, sourcing materials in ways that minimize environmental harm and promote biodiversity. 4. Fair trade practices, ensuring suppliers and workers receive fair wages and equitable terms. 5. Stakeholder engagement, collaborating with suppliers, NGOs, and communities to drive collective improvement. Challenges in ethical sourcing. 1. Supply chain complexity. Modern supply chains are often multi-layered and involve numerous intermediaries, making it difficult to trace the origin of raw materials. For instance, the mining of rare earth minerals or the cultivation of cash crops like cocoa and coffee often involves informal labor markets that are harder to regulate. 2. Lack of visibility and transparency. Many companies lack the technological tools and processes to monitor supplier practices beyond Tier 1, direct suppliers. Deeper tiers often remain opaque, creating risks of unethical practices going undetected. 3. Cost implications. Implementing ethical sourcing can increase costs due to the need for supplier audits, certifications, and compliance programs. Ethical suppliers may also charge premiums for meeting higher standards. 4. Regulatory compliance. Navigating diverse and evolving regulatory requirements, such as the EU's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive or the US Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, can be challenging for businesses operating across borders. 5. Resistance from suppliers. Suppliers in developing economies may resist changes due to cost or cultural differences. They may lack the resources to comply with ethical sourcing standards or may prioritize cost efficiency over sustainability. 6. Consumer misinformation. Companies may struggle to communicate their ethical sourcing efforts effectively, leading to skepticism or accusations of greenwashing, falsely claiming environmental or ethical benefits. Opportunities in ethical sourcing. 1. Enhanced brand reputation. Businesses that prioritize ethical sourcing can strengthen their brand image, earning trust and loyalty from consumers who value responsible practices. Studies show that consumers are willing to pay a premium for products aligned with their values. 2. Competitive advantage. Ethical sourcing creates differentiation in crowded markets. Companies with transparent and sustainable supply chains can attract socially conscious customers and partners. 3. Risk mitigation. By proactively addressing labor and environmental risks, companies reduce the likelihood of reputational damage, legal action, and supply chain disruptions caused by unethical practices. 4. Long-term cost savings. Although ethical sourcing may require upfront investments, it can lead to long-term savings by reducing waste, improving operational efficiency, and building resilient supplier relationships. 5. Access to capital and partnerships. Investors are increasingly prioritizing environmental, social, and governance (ESG) factors when funding businesses. Companies with robust ethical sourcing practices are more likely to attract capital and strategic partnerships. 6. Regulatory alignment. Proactively adopting ethical sourcing practices positions businesses to comply with evolving laws and regulations, reducing future compliance risks and penalties. 7. Talent attraction and retention. Ethically conscious companies are more likely to attract top talent, particularly among younger generations who prioritize working for socially responsible organizations. Steps to implement ethical sourcing. 1. Conduct a supply chain audit. Map the supply chain to identify risks at each level, focusing on high-risk sectors like agriculture, mining, and textiles. 2. Set clear policies and standards. Develop a code of conduct for suppliers that outlines expectations for labor practices, environmental stewardship, and legal compliance. 3. Engage suppliers. Work collaboratively with suppliers to build their capacity for meeting ethical standards, offering training and support where necessary. 4. Leverage technology. Use tools like blockchain for traceability and artificial intelligence (AI) for predictive analytics to improve supply chain visibility. 5. Certifications and partnerships. Partner with recognized organizations, e.g., Fairtrade, Rainforest Alliance, and adopt certifications to verify compliance. 6. Monitor and audit regularly. Conduct periodic audits of suppliers and subcontractors to ensure adherence to standards. Use third-party audit firms to maintain objectivity. 7. Engage stakeholders. Collaborate with NGOs, governments, and industry bodies to drive collective improvement and share best practices. 8. Communicate efforts transparently. Publish detailed reports on ethical sourcing initiatives and progress, avoiding exaggerated claims. Case studies. 1. Patagonia. Leadership in ethical sourcing. Outdoor apparel brand Patagonia has integrated sustainability into its business model by sourcing materials responsibly, using fair trade certified factories, and ensuring transparency in its supply chain. These efforts have earned the company a loyal customer base and industry recognition. 2. Nestlé. Tackling child labor in cocoa supply chains. Nestlé introduced the Cocoa Plan to address child labor and improve the livelihoods of cocoa farmers. By investing in community development, education, and supply chain traceability, the company has made significant progress in ethical sourcing. 3. IKEA. Embracing renewable and recycled materials. IKEA committed to using only renewable or recycled materials in its products by 2030. Through partnerships with suppliers and certifications like FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, the company has aligned its sourcing practices with its sustainability goals. Conclusion. Ethical sourcing is not just a moral imperative but also a strategic opportunity for businesses. While challenges like supply chain complexity, cost implications, and regulatory requirements exist, companies that invest in ethical sourcing can gain a competitive edge, reduce risks, and contribute to a sustainable future. The key to success lies in transparency, collaboration, and leveraging technology to overcome barriers and unlock the full potential of ethical sourcing. Organizations that act now will not only protect their reputation but also position themselves as leaders in the global shift toward responsible business practices.